we looked at one another. We looked at our hands. Nothing had changed. The spot was still there. Our flesh was still rotting away. But what would you have done? We had already dared to hope. So we decided to go towards the village, to where the priest was. And as we started going that way, we slowly started feeling a change. Something was different. We looked at one another. And as we looked at one another, we noticed that our flesh was no longer rotting away. We began to tear our bandages free and to look at our skin, that somehow we had been healed of this leprosy. Somehow we had been cured. And we began to run towards the priest. And I stopped. The others did not notice. They kept running. And though I was desperately wanting to present myself in front of the priest to be pronounced clean, to kiss my wife again, to hold my kids, I knew that I had to go back to this Jesus and to thank him. So I turned and I began to run back to where Jesus was. And when I got to him, I fell on my knees and I put my face in the dirt and I said, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you for healing me." And I looked up to his face and he looked down at me and he nodded at me as if to say, "You're welcome." And then he asked me, "Were there not 10 of you? Where are the other 9? But I could only speak for myself, that I had come. And he turned to the crowd and he began to speak to them, saying, "Look, here's a Samaritan. He is the only one that has come back to give thanks." And then he turned to me and he motioned for me to get up. And when I got up, he told me to go present myself to the priest. So I ran, and I joined the others. And the priest had already presented them as clean, as cured. He was in awe of what was going on. He rushed as fast as he could to pronounce me as clean, as cured, for he too wanted to go see this Jesus of Nazareth. And after he had pronounced me as clean, as cured, I went back to my house. It had been so long since I had been there. And I kissed my wife. And I turned to my kids as they ran up to me screaming, "Papa, Papa!" And I held them in my arms. Early the next morning, we woke, for I wanted to introduce my family to this man, Jesus, who had saved me. But he had already gone. From that point on, I could not hear enough stories, get enough information about this Jesus, about the miracles he was doing, about his teachings, his healings. Some called him the Messiah. And I believed. I believed that he was the Messiah. And then the religious leaders, they came to me and they started asking me questions of what had happened. And I told them the story, but it was as if they wanted to catch Jesus in a lie. something that he had not done. But the only thing that I knew to tell them, and I knew in my heart, was that Jesus had healed me, that he had given me life again. It was as if I had been raised from the dead.